All righty. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here today on this, Monday, May 6th, 2024. And yeah, excited to get into another dynamic discussion. This time, we're going to be talking about pranic living. So is this a myth or is this a deeply esoteric, aka hidden truth? So I'm delighted to be joined by a new dear friend, Noa Lakshmi, in this discussion. So thanks for being here, Noa. And I'm excited to get into the topic today. It's really a one that I know is near and dear to your heart, and certainly to all of us who are pursuing this path of remembering just who we truly are, which is that we are light beings having this physical experience. So thanks for being here, Noa, and let's jump into it.
Yes. Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone that is here and everyone that is listening later on. Indeed, this is very dear to my heart, this topic. And it became really clear that this is what the conversation this week is going to be about, because somebody shared in your channel, Justin, I think it was Lynette, something that you had posted on a different channel about this woman in Ethiopia that hasn't eaten in 16 years and all of that. And of course, they made this video very, it was kind of funny, just to watch the interviewers. But you posted that, and then I was inspired to post another video of this beautiful woman in Norway, that I found this video many years ago, and I actually ended up watching it again, just to to activate some things within me, and just little bits and pieces that have shown themselves to me in the last few days. That when you asked me, you have a topic for this week, and I said absolutely. It was so clear. And I was in tears yesterday and this morning again, connecting the dots. And I'm going to bring in the conversation we had last week about Saturn and Pisces and how it dropped on me. I was talking about the hero's journey and how Saturn has been doing its own hero's journey around the wheel, coming into Pisces now. And then in 2026, when it comes into Aries, it's going to be a new beginning. And so I went for a walk later in the afternoon yesterday, and my wheels like to turn as well as I'm walking. And I realized, oh, wait, it's a Saturn cycle. When was the last time Saturn was in Pisces, right? Because we're looking at those cycles. Saturn was in Pisces about 29 years ago, 30 years ago. So I do the calculations in my head, and I'm like, oh, that would be around 94, 95. Oh, that's when I was 12, around that time. And I just overnight decided to stop eating meat. And little did I know, it was not, I was never a big meat eater, even as a child. There are many things I have never actually eaten in my life in terms of flesh because I was not into it. But, whatever, you grow up and do whatever everybody else is doing, right? So, but at the age of 12, I connected the dots. There was no influence. There was no movie that I watched. There was no Google back then. I didn't have a phone. I just connected the dots, and I told my mom that I didn't want to eat meat anymore. Just like that. And when that piece just dropped yesterday, I just start sobbing because I realized the implication of that moment and that journey that I've been on since that moment, and that I was initiated into something, because Saturn, it's an initiation, especially in Pisces. It's a spiritual initiation. Now, when we kids and we're so young, we might not have that awareness, obviously, that this is what's happening. It's not like when you are in your 20s or 30s and exposed to different things that help you to connect the dots, but nevertheless, the forces obviously are still at play. And to tie another piece into it, when you are 12, and this applies to everyone, you have your first Jupiter return. And that is, Jupiter return happens every 12 years, age of 12, 24, 36, 48, and so on and so forth. And so Jupiter return is a time of great expansion, and especially of the higher mind, of infinite possibilities that are beyond our physical comprehension. And there's deep knowing, intuitive knowing that will start to surface. And that is very Jupiterian, like, I'm going to stop eating meat. You know, there was that intuition that came from a deep soul knowing, in combination with the fact that Saturn was in Pisces back then as well. And it put me on this journey that I've been on for the last 29 to 30 years that I didn't know back then. And I just started sobbing. Yeah, I just started sobbing and crying and really feeling the magnitude and the journey I've been on since then and what it means. Yeah, so I've been in quite a deep process in the last 24 hours. Very beautiful, just having the clarity more and more of my own soul's journey. And this is an invitation for all of you. If you place yourself back, about 29, 30 years ago. I mean, Justin, you were 4 or 5, so you might not remember much, but still, maybe there was something that occurred in your life, even if you were a kid, that now, after 29 to 30 years, here we are on this hero's journey. And something that you were initiated into that you didn't realize back then, but now that we are here sitting in this present moment, you might connect the dots and realize that, oh wow, this has been the journey I've been on because of that moment. And it doesn't have to be a one particular moment. Like, for me, it was a decision to stop eating meat, but maybe it was like a year out of your life. You take the year of 94 and the year of 95, around that time, and whatever was occurring back then. So that's just a very interesting contemplation to have. It may or may not involve food and health, but whatever it is for you, it's very interesting to start observing and seeing those cycles. And then I started crying even more because, of course, I went home. In my head, I knew already, well, of course, Saturn was in Pisces, but I went home like eagerly. Let me look at the charts, and moving the clock backwards. It's so fun to play with time like this, with astrology. And it's so mind blowing. I look at the chart, I pull up the chart. Oh, right. So Saturn went into Pisces. It was February of 94, and it stayed in Pisces until April of 96. And so Saturn moved. The last time we had the same position like Saturn is in now was during that time, 94 to 96. And at 96 is when Saturn went into Aries, which we are going to have in 2026, 30 years later. And it was around that time. So Saturn was in Aries from 96 until about 98, or at the end of 98. And around that time is when I developed what is considered to be eating disorders. And I'm going to tie it into what we are talking here today, because that is part of the journey and the hero's journey I've been on, and connecting the dots. So I basically, around that time is when I got into the idea of I got to be skinny, and so got to stop eating. And I'm not going to get too deep into that right now, but that was part of my journey. I actually do have a YouTube video talking more about this topic, like the underlying spiritual reasons for what we call eating disorders, and especially what we call anorexia and such, because there's so much more underneath the surface than the superficial level of somebody wants to look better or look skinny, or whatever pressures that we have in our society these days. And it's mainly for women, although men can be subjected to that as well, especially in the more competitive arenas. But that's a piece in my journey that, of course, it's like a lifetime of healing and recovering from that, and understanding the deeper reasons for that on a soul level. And so this health journey, which is so much more than just the food that we eat and our physical bodies, as we know, it's all the layers, right? It's the emotional, it's the psychological, it's our soul's journey. Like, really, what is the stories or the blueprints that are hidden within our cellular memory? And part of the health journey, or if we aspire, let's just say that, if we aspire to truly, it's beyond healthy, to truly thrive and come to our full human potential, then we gotta dive into that cellular memory and unravel and decode everything that it holds. And this is part of the conversation today when it comes to this topic of food and pranic nourishment and pranic living and all of that, because I would like to demystify the whole thing. I really stay away from words like breatharianism and even pranic nourishment and pranic living. We use that for the topic, just for the simplicity's sake. But all those titles, all those names, all those boxes, it makes things sound and seem, for some, maybe unattainable or very mystical, or this something that we gotta do, just like enlightenment, right? Like, I gotta do this and this and that in order to achieve something. And it really is who we truly are. There's nothing to become. It's not about, oh, you need to become a breatharian, or you need to become a pranic being or a light being. This is already who we are. This is already who we are. So there's nothing to become. It's more about returning back, or not even back, but just returning to who we truly are. And it's more about removing the obstructions in the way of just being who we already are. And same thing applies to what we're going to be talking about today, the pranic nourishment, what our bodies really are. They're already that. However, there are several obstructions on a physical level, on the emotional level, on the psychological level, that are in the way of us living effortlessly in that state that is our true nature. This is how I prefer to call it. It's our true nature. So it's not a discussion about oh, are we pranic or not? It's yes, like we are a light manifesting in this physical form, but the structure, the true structure of our DNA is that of light, is that of crystalline texture. So the question is, how do we activate that, so to speak? How do we remember? Really is. It's about remember. It's also reminding ourselves themselves, like, hey, like this is who you truly are. Like our actual selves, and reminding the cells how they're meant to operate. Right? And we can zoom out, because every microcosm and the macrocosm, whatever is happening in the human body, is we zoom out, and this is what's happening on a global level in the world, because each person is a cell. So it's like reminding each cell, hello, this is who you truly are. This is what you came here to do. So it's just a matter of waking up from that slumber, right? And on a cellular level, the majority of individuals on the planet, our cells are asleep, or at least they're not fully awake and not fully functioning in the way that they were designed to. I call it the divine design. So it's returning to that divine design. And that's a hero's journey. There's no doubt about it. And the health, I see it for myself and many other individuals. That's not the path for everyone. Some people come into this world from a different door, but for many individuals, and I can only speak for myself, that is a very key door. Let's just say that, like the quest to, I want to become healthier. So show me what to do. Tell me what to do, how, and then it's a learning, right? It's such a learning experience. Like you go from one stage to the next, and we keep learning, oh, this is good for my body. This is not so good for my body. And it's a constant evolution and a constant learning. And then for some of us, and if you are here, I can only imagine that there is some curiosity and potentially even more than curiosity of, well, what is actually possible? What is actually possible? We've been all conditioned to believe, and this is, I would say, the most deeply seated belief that almost every single living individual on our planet is carrying on a cellular level, because this has passed down through so many generations, is the belief that in order to live, we gotta eat. It's the most deeply seated belief. Beyond now just the physical stuff, I mean, we'll get into a lot of fun things today, I have a feeling, but just to look at that belief itself, because it does boil down to what we believe in. It does boil down to that. And so I would say food and gravity is kind of like in the same category, right? Like we believe in gravity. This is a deeply seated belief. But what if there's something else that is possible? Not to say that gravity doesn't exist. Just like I'm not devaluing or discrediting or saying that food might not provide a particular something to someone, but just an invitation to look at that belief that in order to live, in order to sustain my physical body, I need food. And then depending on the individual, for some people, it's a very particular type of foods. Just like many people still believe that in order to live, I got to eat meat. In order to live, I got to have a lot of protein. that in order to live, I need to have milk, or, whatever, like to have calcium, I got to drink milk. And we can go down the line with that. So it's really all about beliefs, what it is that we believe in. So this path and the idea of living without food, or it doesn't even need to be so black and white, with or without. There's a lot of gray areas in between. But in order to move through those gray areas, it really is a matter of examining what it is that I believe in. And from my own personal experience, that is the last frontier. That is the last frontier. And especially in the last couple of years and this past year, I'm seeing so much and so acutely how strong that belief is, and how I'm dancing in between worlds, because it's beyond just belief. When it comes to food, no matter what form you choose to consume it, when it comes to consumption in general, even if you are just on liquids, there's such an attachment. There's such an attachment, and it varies for different people, for sure. But there's such a strong emotional attachment to that. And when we recognize or realize, why do I actually consume? Right? If we stop and become mindful of that, am I truly hungry, or am I truly thirsty? Am I truly wanting something inside my body, or is it's a habit? Right? It's just a habit. And so we are conditioned to believe something about food and our survival. And then we add in the emotional components and how that goes all the way back to childhood and nourishment, and equating food with love, with feeling certain things. And then we look at the actual habitual way of living. It's just an habitual thing. Now it's becoming more and more mindful of asking that question. Am I really hungry? Am I really thirsty? And why am I grabbing for that piece of food or a drink or whatever it may be? And seeing just how habitual it is, and why. Right? So there's a lot to unravel there in our own psyche. And on top of that, we've got the collective consciousness around that, or the collective agreement, right? So much of this journey is about truly just claiming our sovereignty, right? To be able to unhook from those deeply seated beliefs and habits and addictions and collective agreement, and really tuning in to the truth. Easier said than done, because there are so many factors that are playing a part in this equation. Yeah, so let me pause here for a second, Justin, and I want to see if you have anything to say or to add, and I'm happy to share more about my personal journey with all of this as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and thank you for sharing so much. And it truly is. I love to focus on that fundamental part, that we're not searching to add anything to ourselves. We're not missing anything. We're not incomplete. We are whole. We have it all. This is moving back to our natural state of being. This is how we were designed. This is the optimum form of myself inhabiting this body, this consciousness playing this part. So it's not about adding anything to this. It's about unwinding, peeling back the layers of how I got here. And to truly do that, we have to first be honest with, like, how did I get here? How did I get to this particular space to where I'm conditioned to believing that I need physical food to nourish and fuel my body, or I'll die. You know, this big fearful mindset that I will perish if I don't sustain myself with this physical nourishment. So unwinding that, you mentioned addiction as a part of it, and we had a great discussion on addiction a few weeks ago. So it's not to beat ourselves up for why we're here. You know, it's not to say that we're bad or wrong or have done anything in a bad way. But to truly forgive ourselves for getting into this space and take an honest look of why we got here, what got us to this space. And I spoke about in that talk how the underlying traumas that are imbued into this experience are why we pursue addictions of any sort, including food, including this idea that I need this physical nourishment to sustain, but also to numb out from having to feel these overwhelming sensations from the traumatizing influences that we're put through. So if I can take that holistic look at the factors of why I came to this conclusion that I need to eat these things, that I need to have something to distract myself away from what I'm experiencing, then I can start to unravel that a bit more effectively. Whereas the other approach of looking at myself as if I'm doing something horrible and I need to re-examine, you know, my relationship with food from a sort of punishment perspective, that's where we can get caught up into this idea that I'm not enough, or I need to do more. So it's a fine line from that perspective, and I'm really glad that you touched on this knowing that this is our natural state, and this is something that we can easily move back to. We just have to really examine these beliefs of how we got here. I mean, the word belief, lie. You know, we are lying to ourselves. We're being this lie when we take on these ideas that are not true, that are not consistent with who we are and how we've gotten to this space. So thank you for that. And I'd say the sort of recalibration back to examining what got us to this space. We can look at the 5 elements as a great way to sort of see this sort of step down way of how we got from the highest form, the etheric beings that we are, beyond physicality, and how we step down into the physicality. So the 5 elements are earth, water, air, fire, and ether. And those are kind of corresponding to different layers of density. And truly, you can show this, whereas earth is going to be at the lowest form, and then water above that, and then air above that, fire above that, and ether above that. So this is sort of the pragmatic stepping stones of how we came from that highest form and we fell into the physicality. So the earth element, the most dense form of this scale, would correspond to the physical food. So these would be all physical foods. However, even in that layer, it's gotten so distorted, as we've seen, where they've paraded Cheez-Its as if that's a real food, a real part of Earth, or Pop-Tarts, or all this produced false garbage parading as food. So even in that layer, we have to re-examine our relationship with that, which we've had many discussions re-examining how processed foods are not designed for us. These animal-based foods are not designed for us as well. So really examining all of these layers and coming back to the simplicity of, okay, here's this perfection in a piece of fruit that's gifted to us. That's our body's designed to eat. It's designed to utilize and take as nourishment. Okay, that's a food. That's something that we can come to an agreement on as a physicality piece of this puzzle. But what we're asking here now is to examine the potential that piece of fruit, no matter how beautiful it is, as far as a physical piece of nourishment, what if there's something beyond? What if we can step beyond the confines of that needing of that earth element for nourishment? So there is value to it. It certainly can be utilized as a form of fuel for us. However, it's the lowest form of fuel on that scale. So what comes next? It's the water element. So that's the next form of nourishment within ourselves. And this may be something that Noa might disagree with me with, but the perfect encapsulation of that water element is from our own well, the orin that we produce. Drink from thine own cistern. So this is often heralded as a stepping stone to leave the physicality, to move from the physical forms of nourishment to another layer, looking to that water. And the water that I produce myself will be the best form of that, in my humble opinion. And then we move from the water element to the air element. So this is the breath. This is really absorbing every aspect of what the breath is, my relationship with the air around, and how I can truly tap into that energetic reserve that's available to me at all times. So most people are dealing with a variation of these three forms of nourishment. You know, some people are able to more naturally tap into that breath, that air element for nourishment. Some people are able to tap into that water, and some people are more heavily reliant on that earth element. But most people have some spectrum of these three that they're playing with. And then, of course, there's the fire element, which would be the sunlight. So this is another form of nourishment and food, per se, that we can utilize to energize and fuel our body. But even this element is still below the element that they speak about the least, which is the most important and the all-encompassing, as we showed in that last discussion. This is the symbiosis and the union of all four of the elements, which is the ether. So going beyond even the need for physical breath, we have the potential to tap into our natural form of energy, which is that ether. So having that framework of seeing these layers of density of where we've fallen from grace, we've fallen from that highest form, and we've fallen through all these layers. And there's nothing bad or wrong about doing that. We chose to experience this. We chose to go through the full experience of that so that we could rekindle ourselves, reclaim who we are, remember who we are, and rise back up that ladder, rise back up all of these elements, coming back to our natural form, which is that I don't need anything external to myself. I have access to all of that at all times. But of course, the process is challenging. We enjoy the challenge. We enjoy the work that goes into doing this, because getting through those challenges brings a great deal of excitement. It brings us into a spirit of joy to say, I accomplished this. I did that. I went through the gauntlet. I went through the dungeons. I fought the dragons. You know, I got the treasure. Like, all of these parts of the hero's journey are representative of these various challenges that we have to overcome. So I love this topic, and I'm really excited to get further into it, but I just wanted to portray that kind of simplistic model of this density layer that we've stepped down into, and how we can kind of rewind that idea that I need this earth element to sustain me. No, I can choose to have this earth element to sustain me, but I don't need it. There are higher forms. There are better ways. And each layer that I'm willing to rise up into only yields a greater ease on my physical body. And we know that alkalinity is all about ease of movement, ease of flow. So the more ease that I can give on my body, the more able it is to tap into its full ability of regeneration, perpetual, forever life. And that's a choice too. So it's a choice to move through that and to step back into my higher form when I'm ready, when I'm ready to let go of these lower forms, these denser ways of being, and not beat myself up along the way. You know, everything is a journey to travel through. And if I need to experience, you know, years or lifetimes at whatever layer, I get to. But just know that there is more. There is a deeper look into this. And so, yeah, I'm grateful to jump into this conversation today, and just want to thank you, Noa, again for introducing this. And yeah, that's all I got for now.
Oh, Justin, brilliant. Just everything that you shared right now. And I'm so happy and grateful that you brought in the 5 elements and how it relates to this topic and what we are discussing here. It is spot on. And I'm actually going to share more about my personal journey with all of this and how it relates exactly to these 5 elements that you brought in. And also the piece that you started with that relates to what I shared regarding the obstructions. So you said the traumas, right? The traumas that are in our cellular memory, those are the obstructions that keep us from truly inhibiting this physical vehicle for what it is and truly living in that natural state. Now, just like Justin said, there's nothing bad, wrong, lower. It's really not. And this is the key, the absolute key to this entire journey. It boils down to self-love, because love is the only force that has the power to transform anything and everything, period. In my book, from what I've witnessed, that really is the equation. And love will pave our way to living in that natural state, which is love, it's already who we are. So, right, it's kind of like a funny journey that we take to just come back to who we truly already are. So when I say love, I mean that self-love, that self-compassion, also that Justin mentioned. And when it comes to this journey of health, because I've been in this circus for many years, let's just say that, learning so much, being part of different communities, and I'm a detoxification specialist, you know, so I come from that background. Dr. Morse, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that teachings. And again, I don't like all those boxes of fruitarianism, blah, 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 all the isms and ands, and I'm a vegetarian, I am vegan, I am this, I am that, and we are none of that. These are all stepping stones, just like Justin said. These are all stepping stones to move us in the direction of our natural state. And that is one of the biggest, I would say, epiphanies that I would be happy to offer someone, is to just not to get stuck on, when it comes to the health journey, when it comes to certain modalities, to not get stuck on, well, this is the grand finale. You know, I have found fruit and this is the grand finale. Or I found living foods, or I found vegan, or I found, you know, whatever. There's like a circus show going on in this department. We know this. There's so much information. There's so many things, and none of it is bad, good, wrong, better, higher, lower. It's the circus, you know. It's like, okay, choose your own show, choose your circus, go enjoy the rides. Just don't get stuck on one ride. You know, it's kind of like you get stuck on the same ride, and what happens? Eventually you're going to get sick and throw up, and, you know, and it applies to the whole thing with food. And I see it so much, especially in, like, you know, the fruitarian communities, and I'm not bashing anything or anyone. I was there too. So I'm speaking from experience, where we can just get stuck because we build our entire identity on something. Right? So then a door opens. Wow, let's look what's behind door number 2. And there's this idea of, well, actually, let's go on to vegan, right? Like, now you learn about living foods, that actually cooked foods are not so good. So all this time, I'm like here on a crusade to convert everyone to eating vegan. But then I'm like, oh, shoots, actually, maybe rice and beans is not the best thing. And so then somebody might get stuck on the raw food. And this is that's the journey that I was on, that I have been on. The progression, the hero's journey that I've been on when it comes to food, when it comes to the health journey of learning in each step of the way. And I'm really grateful that I have the ability. That's just how I'm built, because I don't identify myself with things so tightly. I guess that's one of my gifts, that it's in a sense easy for me to let go. And all I can say is that all those things that I've discovered along the way, it was like a truth that just hit me on the inside. I didn't need to, although I read many books and I listened to people, but there was this innate truth that was inside of me already, that and that's very Jupiterian, knowing what we know without knowing how we know it. And that was my time as an anorexic. Although I had a very distorted motivation, but that's just on the surface, right? That's just on the surface, whatever. Underneath it, on a soul level, I already knew I don't need food, and I don't want to put physical food in my body. It was my mental state that obviously led me to lose a lot of weight and be sick, because anorexia comes with, it's a dark place to be mentally, psychologically. It's a distortion of the mind that is so much rooted in self-worth. It's rooted in self-love. It's rooted in all those traumas. It's rooted in an endocrine system that is completely out of whack. And then on a spiritual level, it goes all the way back to past lives and living lives as nuns, and back in ancient Rome, of women and nuns that practiced what was called holy anorexia. And when I found that out a few years ago, that totally blew my mind, because I had this truth inside of me, like, oh, I totally have lives back then of being a nun like that. And that was rooted, though, still in the belief and the mentality of, I got to suffer in order to be worthy. And I'm so happy that you touched on that, Justin. That this health journey that can have two very different flavors to it based on our mindset and our belief. Ultimately, it boils down to that belief. So when 30 years ago or 25 years ago, it was, for me, was rooted in a belief of still operating from my pain body, unworthiness. I gotta be skinny. There's the idea also of just not wanting to be here. There's many people, mainly women, that have subjected to that on a deeper level. It's just, they don't want to live, so there's that whole, like, I just want to disappear. So there's so much more to be said about that. But at the end of the day, there's that deep knowing of, I really don't need food. And the actually not feeling even comfortable with having physical solid food in one's own body. Like the feeling of lightness. Like when I look back at Noa, and I've been kind of going through that, the archives in the last few days, with all of this coming on the surface, and tapping into that timeline when I was there, going back to Noa and the mindset and everything that I was doing and everything that I was thinking and everything that I was experiencing, I was able to see that beyond the suffering and the pain and the dark place I was in, there was also a sense of empowerment to some degree, and more so just this feeling of lightness. There's a feeling of lightness that it doesn't need to come with all the baggage of anorexia, right? So this is where, again, the full circle that I'm finding myself in after all these years is coming into this idea again of not having food, but with a completely different lens and a completely different understanding after I have healed and have resolved and unraveled so much of that trauma that was living in my cellular memory. And so looking at my on my journey, even with all this like food transitions and learning about different foods, and okay, this is a better way to eat, this is a better way to nourish my body. And then when I found out about fasting, just like many others, yeah, wow, yeah, fasting 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, blah blah blah, all the different types of fasting. Right now we have a whole industry based on fasting and all of that. But that was part of my journey. Like I came into that world, and of course I had heard about it, but it was more, let's say 2017, I was in a relationship, and it was that partner that brought that into my life. He was there to remind me what I already knew, right? So that was my activator for that, the catalyst. And I had done 7-day water fast back in 2012, actually. And that was a complete guidance. I didn't know anything about any of this. I was already into the fruits that started in 2008, 2009, living foods. And shortly after I ditched the whole living foods, because fruits, I'm like, this is God, like I've always been a fruit lover. And so I was on that train, and yeah, 2012, it was just a guidance. 7 days, Noah, just do water. I read Conversations with God, the 3 volumes in 7 days. That's all I did. I went into silence, 7 days water. And I didn't know none of this. I didn't know anything about fasting. It was just guidance. And then I did some different things along the way. And it was really that 2017 mark that brought it back into my life, activated it again. And then in 2020, I had that knowing in my heart since that 7-day water fast. I had that knowing in my heart that I would do a longer fast at some point. And I thought that it would be 14 days. And then in 2020, I felt the guidance. The guidance came around solstice, actually, to do 21 days. And I was like, yike, don't want to. 21 days, but it was just clear to do 21 days. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it was when I completed those 21 days that the whole, what we are talking about here, pranic nourishment, breatharianism, blah, 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 dropped on my lap. Jas Muhin, some of you might be familiar with the name. She's a lady from Australia that has been teaching this for 30 years, actually, if not even more. So basically, when little puppy Noah decided to stop eating meat, Jas Muhin was basically just starting or getting more into teaching this, living on light, living on prana. And I don't even remember how the synchronicity, I just found a YouTube video of Jas Muhin, and I saw my trajectory at the end of those 21 days. I'm like, oh, whoa. okay, I just saw my trajectory. So there's a big difference between knowing things conceptually, hearing information, reading a book, watching a video, or even seeing your own trajectory. Like we can see a vision of where my life is heading, why I am here. So there's a difference between that and actually living it, right? There's like a full-on integration that has to occur in order for that to actually manifest. So I'm sharing all of that just to give a little bit of background of now, May of 2024, that, right, about 4 years, I saw my trajectory, I saw all of that. And then I got into the rabbit hole of this world, and fasting and getting more into dry fasting. And I came into all of this still, and I'm seeing it a lot in those communities, especially for women. I still came into it from what Justin was talking about, still that idea, even if it was a lot less, like the volume was a lot less, but with self-honesty, I knew there was still the flavor of, not so pure. Not bad. That was my journey, but just I was observing that. Nevertheless, it still took me on a ride, and I learned a lot. And I also learned that this is not something that you force upon yourself. This is not something that there's going to be a process that we're going to do in order to become a breatharian, or that there's a certain formula to follow in order to get there. Number one, it's going to be different for every person. Number two, not everybody signed up for that. Although, yes, it's true, it's our natural state, but it doesn't mean that every single individual walking the earth this is their lifetime to be food free. And not to say that also that's the only way to reach some sort of whatever, spiritual enlightenment. You can very much still be consuming and be very, very enlightened. So it's not about the food. That's the biggest thing that I learned, or one of the biggest things that I've learned. It's really not about the food. That's where the bigger work begins. That it's going back to, okay, all those obstructions, all those traumas that are still playing in the background that are keeping me attached and addicted. I love that you brought it up, Justin, because it boils down to addictions. And it's not, and a lot of people feel, or many people feel insulted or offended by that word. And it's really not about that. Like, just let's look at the simple term of what is an addiction. It's a dependency on something. It's being dependent on something, and then also being pulled or drawn to consume something or do something in order to achieve fill in the blank. That's an addiction. So we are all addicts. We're all addicts, even if you're just eating fruits or just drinking juice or whatever, there's still an addiction. And in my universe, in order for us to see what is actually going on, we got to turn the light on, right? We got to just call things for what they are. So at least to acknowledge, well, I'm an addict. And then love the one that is addicted, and ask oneself, well, why? Where is the addiction coming from? And that's the Saturn in Pisces that we were talking about last week. That's the compassion. We're not going to beat our way or beat ourselves and beat our way to living in our natural state. We're going to love ourselves to embody what we already are. And a step in that direction is the recognition of the habitual patterns and the addictions and where they're coming from. Because again, it's not about you becoming or you being food free. You might not have that aspiration. It might not be an aspiration, but here's the kicker. That was never my aspiration. This is where and I'm going to go to the elements that you shared, Justin, is, okay, I saw my trajectory, but I didn't know how is that going to manifest, how it's that going to unfold. So I shared a little bit about, my journey of learning about fasting and coming into all that and into that world with not a pure mindset, and still coming from a very masculine, egoic place. There's like a goal I got to achieve, and I'm going to dry fast for 4 days. I'm going to dry fast for 5 days. And look at Sarah over there. She's fasting for 10 days, and I got to do that too. If she can do it, I can do it. And that mentality that is a drive for many people. And that's when I had the realization that that's what I was doing. And that's a habit, that's another trauma, some sort of a self-worth, deeper layers of self-worth. And I got to achieve something, and I got to prove something to myself or others, or whatever imaginary voices, that I just let all of that go. I'm like, F all of that. I want freedom. Freedom. That's what I signed up for. So I kind of started unwinding from there and rewinding everything. And I touch on that also on a video that I have on YouTube. I'll share it in the group for those that are interested. And it's going to speak more to those maybe that have history of eating disorders or whatnot. But I go a little bit more into that topic of actually just unraveling so much of those patterns and doing things differently. And basically I prayed to God, and I said, listen, I know what the truth is. I've seen my trajectory, and you just show me the way, and not have any preconceived notions or ideas of, oh, this is how it has to be, and this is what I need to do. No, there's nothing that I need to do except for listen. Just deep listening. And so that has been my journey, and on a more practical level, or more of like personal details of how it's been, and relating that to the 5 elements, is exactly that. That's been the process, and where I'm finding myself these days is the solid food, right? Like the earth element that Justin described. And that has different levels as well, obviously different levels of density, because we cannot compare a dead piece of meat to a freshly picked mango or a watermelon, so there's even the levels of density within the dense physical matter. And that is the journey as well for many individuals, is on the physical level. When it comes to the physical substance, there's that getting lighter and lighter. And even within the fruit queendom, we observe that as well. And that's something that I have been experiencing so acutely, because even with fruits, there are different levels of density. Like a durian and watermelon cannot be compared. Right? So even within that, there is a big difference. And so I'll just stay with the physical level for a moment, is that I started to notice, and that started to happen, I would say, in the last couple of years. And that was after 2 very long solid food vacations. I call them, just being on juice. One was 90 days in 2021, and then 120 days it was in 2022. And ever since then, things really started to shift gears very radically, especially after 2022 or since 2022. And I started noticing that even with fruits, which I still believe that if we consume anything solid, then fruits is the food for humans. It's the way I describe it is that it's the closest to light in a physical form in terms of consumption. It's the closest to light. And it's filled with life force and electricity, and it's baked by the sun. And so it really encapsulates all the elements in this beautiful hydrating package that is designed for the human organism, and it's medicine for the human organism at a certain stage. So I started noticing that fruits that I used to love, like I could eat buckets of it. Number one, I wasn't drawn to it anymore. That was the observation at first. Like, I'm not drawn to it. I don't want it. Like, I see it, I smell it. I'm like, I still like to smell it, but I'm not interested. And then of course there was that mental, like, well, but it smells so good. And I had to feel it for myself in my body that I actually ate it. But it was like, first of all, it didn't taste as good as I remember it, because we actually eat from memory more than anything else, the memory of a certain taste, memory of a certain feeling. And it just didn't sit well in my body. It just didn't feel so good. It's like, that's a bummer. I really like this, and that's the whole process of like, okay, can we let go? And that's the Saturn in Pisces bringing that back again. Can I let go of structures, ideas, forms that are no longer my truth? Although my ego, my cute little ego still wants, that whatever. So I noticed that, like, I wasn't drawn to it, and it wasn't appealing to me anymore. And especially after those 4 months on just juice, that even when I quote unquote transitioned back into solid food, I actually just, liquids was still what I preferred to consume. So going back to those 5 elements, this is where we go from the earth to the liquid, to the water element. And water element, when I say water element, it's not just water in the form of water or oran. It encapsulated liquids, just whatever liquids you put in that category. And even that has, just like with the solid food, solid fruits, levels of density. So, different I'll stick to the juices for a moment. Different juices that I've been experiencing in the last year and a half, how there's certain juices that I don't want to consume. And I cannot, like, my body doesn't sit well with me. Juices that I used to tolerate with no issue. But
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
Okay.
You're
I'm
back.
back. Okay. Yeah. It's just my body is so fine tuned to that level that it doesn't want the complexity no more. Like, I don't do mixed juices anymore. For example, I'll just I'll do one fruit. Even like the green juices, like cucumber and apple and greens that I used to love. It's just, I can't do that anymore. It has to be just one single ingredient. This is just very recent, actually, and it's breaking my heart. Like pineapple juice, like I used to love pineapple juice. I was able to drink liters of that, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I just, and I had the message even a month ago, like, no more pineapple juice. But I went to the market and it's like this beautiful organic pineapple. I'm like, I want to try it again. And I made pineapple juice. I'm like, no, I can't. And I love it. Like, the flavor, the taste is wonderful, but my body is like, nuh-uh, no. So that's the journey, with the liquids. And, going to the orange thing that Justin mentioned, I might not be on the same train of that, but again, that's just an individual truth. It's just an individual truth. And ultimately, it's like, it's not something that we actually need to consume, because when the body is sufficiently hydrated on a cellular level, and that's the journey of health, like we need to get to that point in which we can actually drop that addiction, because the body is internally hydrated, then there's water that is circulating in the body constantly. We don't necessarily need to drink our own urine. We don't need to drink anything external. There's that internal water that is feeding us. Plus, and this is a very important key, there's moisture in the air, and that's why we are tropical creatures. We are islanders. Like, that's the environment that we can really thrive, where there's moisture in the air. There's moisture in the air, in which, when the skin is healthy enough, which is the big issue for a majority of people, the skin, the largest organ in the body, is actually not open enough to not only just release toxins out of the body, but to absorb the moisture that is present in the air, that is enough and sufficient to hydrate the body. Yeah, we breathe through our skin, and we can consume liquid through our skin. So that's really the truth when it comes to liquids. And when it comes to the solid food, just going back to my own personal experience and what's been happening, is that I prefer the liquids, and I genuinely just can't put solid in my body. And it's really, it's like, it's a mind trip, you guys. It's a mind fuck. It really is, because this is where this is the process I've been in, like, on a very personal level. It's detaching from a certain version of oneself, or letting go of a certain version of oneself. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And it's an emotional journey. It really is. It's there's a mourning that comes with it. And that's why it's important to be really gentle and not force anything, and allow the journey and the process to unfold naturally. And this is what I've been experiencing. It's a very natural unfolding, and at the same time, it brings a lot to the surface, because the attachments to food and everything that it represents are so immense. But on a physical level, these days, if I consume anything solid, it's only fruits, and it's only soft. Like, I can no longer, nor am I interested. I won't say that I can't. I'm not interested and able to. I used to love salads, for example. It's of no interest to me, or like eating an apple or something crunchy or hard. I need to blend it, like, if anything. But then I'm noticing that it doesn't sit well with my body. Just like the blending itself, it's very, the slow juicer is a little bit less of a, it changed the molecular structure of the food, right? When we blend so much. And so, long story short, now the only solid food basically that I've been eating, and the attachment that I have, the addiction to, is avocados, basically, because it's soft. I liquefied it in my mouth, and I can swallow it, but it's dense, and it's more and more that my body is like, gotta let go of the avocados, Noah. So it's a process that each individual is going to have, in a different way, and moving through that elemental scale, as Justin described. And even within that, as I'm sharing here, there are different levels, within the physical matter, within the liquid matter, and then coming to the air and the fire, then I would say, there are probably layers there as well. It's no coincidence to me that I've always been a sun worshiper. Again, it's like that intuitive knowing. I didn't know what I know, but I knew that I knew it. I've always looked, and I still, like, I need the sun. It's like there was this deep knowing that that is nourishment. And then just being with the elements, that is nourishment for us. So the whole process of, again, returning back to that natural state is through the process of loving oneself every step of the way, and having a broader and deeper understanding, like we are talking here today, of all the layers. Like, it's so not about the food. It's so not about the food. And that's one of the reasons. And again, I'm not devaluing it or anything, but the reason why I took a step back from a lot of these communities and these conversations, there's benefit to it. Again, I've walked that journey, and at the same time, I see the distortions, and also that so much of these health communities or vegan and blah 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 fruitarians, like, still perpetuating the same addiction to food and what I call food pornography. It's straight up pornography. And so it's not about demonizing food, not at all. It's a beautiful thing. It's part of this human experience. It's an absolute beautiful thing, and it can be something very beautiful. It's all a matter of, again, our mindset, our attitude, the energy that we embed into it, where it grows, the love that goes into it. It's part of the human experience. It's not demonizing any of this. It's our relationship to it. And really seeing what's behind the veil and all the lies that we've been told. Because we are immortal. Beyond just the soul is immortal, and you're going to live forever in terms of the soul. That's actually the true potential of the physical vehicle. Not to say that we got to reach that, but there's that liberation in terms of freedom to choose when to check out, basically. That death is not an inevitable thing. And that's a belief, again, just like with food, that we got to have food in order to sustain ourselves. We have been programmed to die. We have been programmed that death is inevitable. And so we run on that program, including stuffing ourselves to death, thinking that the food is what sustains us, when in reality, it's actually the thing that kills the physical body eventually. And it's not a matter of, again, just renounce food altogether. It's evaluating my relationship to it and how much of it do I really need or want. Really tuning in. And this is, like, for somebody like me that has a very long history with all of this, relationship to food, consumption, blah, blah, blah. And I'm seeing how, even with the liquids, right? Like, I see how let me just make juice. And when I tune in, I'm like, I don't really need anything, but it's fun making juice, and it's like the flavor. I'm not really thirsty. I'm not really hungry. And I'm in observation of, where is it coming from? Where in the past I would be hard on myself. Now that I'm more in the seat of compassion and embracing the little Noa that is needing that security blanket, and it's okay. And it's that change of perspective or change of attitude with myself that has brought me to what I'm experiencing now, actually, because it's more about our level of awareness and relationship with ourselves that is the bridge to living in our natural state when it comes to food and living with or without it, and how much of it, and boils down to making choices that truly support life. So what I'm seeing for me now, and tying the astrology all together and the downloads that I've been receiving in terms of like timelines and the trajectory that I saw in 2020, that like, okay, I've already seen like not the end of the movie, so to speak, but I've seen certain scenes later on in the movie that I already know that that's what I'm destined for. And so enjoy the ride. And realizing that everything that we use, when it comes to food and whatever the scale, that it's the physical food, the liquids, and within all of that, the different layers that we play with, that's exactly what it is. Those are just toys. Those are toys that we play with. And just like kids, when they're done playing with a toy, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with it. And with food, it's a little bit more complex because of all those different layers that we've already mentioned. That although the body may say, I'm done, but then different voices, traumas, layers, attachments, habits, addictions, social pressures. I don't have the social pressure for me. Like I'm in my lane. I don't really, that's not something that speaks to me, but I know many people have that, like my family, what they're going to say, like they know inside, I'm done with A, B, C, D, whatever, fill in the blank, but it's the family or the partner or whatever it may be, and that's like a big thing, trying to fit in when it comes to food, because it's such an accepted drug. It's like, it's everywhere, right? There's like cafes and restaurants based on drugs, right? It's a drug dealers, basically. So to just zoom out and look at the whole show for what it is, and choosing, okay, which toys do I want to play with, tuning in what is really my truth, like am I still interested in that toy, and then also recognizing that all these things are needed for a particular period of time, which is very individual. For one individual, it could be a period of time of a year. For some, it might be 25 years. So there's no place to comparison whatsoever. But for me, the clarity was like, oh, fruits are just like herbs. It's like medicine. They're designed to hydrate the body on a cellular level. They're designed to wake up the cell. They're designed to do so many things. Just like medicine is designed to activate something, to help heal something. But once that has been accomplished, then do I still need that? And that was the realization I had. And also with the certain fruits that weren't speaking to me anymore, I was like, I needed that for a particular period in my life, and now I don't. So, okay. And it's basically like you need to cross a river or you have a boat. You get to the other shore. And so what we do with food is like, well, we just keep walking with the boat. It's like, just let go of the boat. You're on the shore already. Or maybe you go to, you now in the next river, and the boat that you had before is way too big, but you're like trying to fit that big boat into that smaller river. And it's like, no, here, let me show you. There's another kayak that is prepared for you. You can let go of that boat. You don't need that anymore. You've done with that river. yeah, so that's all the fun little realizations along the way, and embracing embracing all of it for what it is.
Amazing stuff. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. Yeah, I mean, what came up for me was a sort of link between the first discussion we had and the interplay of the divine feminine and divine masculine aspects within us. And so just using these two forms, we talked about in that talk, the importance to live in a true, in our natural state as we're intended to. She is always leading. So that intuitive, that feeling based, feminine side of ourselves is the one guiding. She's the one who is driving the impetus to action, which is what he follows up with. So it's when we're operating in that state, naturally she's going to guide us to this natural way of being. She's going to bring us back to our natural form. She's going to lead us to these different stages and forms that we need to evolve through, to work through. And in each one of these levels that we reach, he's going to come in and ground and create a set of patterns and a way of being, and sort of bring it into action at that stage. And if we're truly open to her guidance, she's going to come along and say, okay, we have fulfilled our experience at this level, in this form, at this stage. Now it's time to rise. And if he's willing, he'll let go. And you beautifully mentioned how that's a mourning process. It is a death to let go of that identity, all that hard work that went into to ground and to construct and to build and to create those forms and establish in that way of being. There is a death. There's a death and a mourning to let go of that particular part of the process, to let go of that particular form or identity of myself that we've crafted. But she's going to beckon and say, it's okay. It's okay. We can step beyond this. There's so much more. Just wait and see. And so if we're living in that space of faith and trust, that's where we celebrate the letting go. We celebrate the giving up, the surrendering of that particular layer identity of myself. And I allow her to take my hand and to move to that higher form and to cherish that journey of going through that process to get to a new space to where I can invite him in once again to say, okay, now I'm at a new space. Let's create again. Let's create a new, establish ourselves in this space. And that process keeps repeating. So if we're open to that fluidity of the movement and allowing her to lead at every stage when she's ready, not a moment before, because if I step in and try and construct a readiness, if I try and think my way through it, if I'm comparing myself to others and say, oh, I want this newfound way of being, but maybe I'm not ready for that on a physiological level, then that's where the mind takes over and he's leading. And when he leads, it always leads to suffering. It always leads to a false identity being created that's not established in that full Trinity foundation. So it's really recognizing, okay, truly, that's why when people ask me, well, should I eat this or should I eat that or should I do this? And I will never answer that question for anybody. I'm not going to insert myself into your process and your way of being. Should you do this or should you do that? Because all we have is that intuitive inner guide to know, am I ready to leave this stage? Do I, just to use a practical example, am I at the stage where I'm eating, fruit in the morning and having a cooked meal at night? Am I at that stage? Am I ready to leave that stage? I don't know. I don't know if you are ready to leave that stage or not. But examining the process and truly allowing that intuitive guide within you to know, it will tell you when you're ready. And just like Noah beautifully said, this might take weeks, months, years, lifetimes. But truly just allowing that inner intuitive guidance, that feminine side of ourselves, let us move, will really bring the greatest success and the greatest yield from that transformative process. And at the same time, every time we're guided to move, that sort of inner masculine attachment can come out and say, oh, but I've worked so hard for this. I don't want to leave this. I don't want to let go of my cooked foods. I don't want to let go of my denser fruits or vegetables or things of that nature. And so there's still work to do there. There's still work to do there in order to truly have that relinquishment and letting go, not forcing things to happen before they're ready. Because just like Noah said, in this sort of reality, there's a lot of people who tend to, and I've been there myself. I've been in those places where I've like, I need to do this now, and I'll do it before I'm ready to do it. And as soon as I enter into that aspect, it's just the same talking about addiction. If I'm doing stuff before I've really examined the reasons why I got here and really examined the true way of being of when I need to let go of this addiction. And if I try and force myself to abstain from something or abstain from doing something before I'm truly ready, then all it's going to do is create a boomerang effect. It's going to cause this swing back and forth to where I'm forcing myself to operate somewhere outside of how naturally I'm inclined to be and move into somewhere that I'm not. So it's having patience and grace and that care and compassion for ourselves. And again, coming back to this fundamental way of being completely outside of the ways we've been conditioned to, but to let her guide. Let that inner feeling, intuitive nature guide us through every step of that. And she won't steer us wrong. And when she's guiding us to move, then we move, we let go. We say, okay, it's time to move on. It's time to surrender that. It's time to have that mourning, have that funeral of that old identity and cherish all the experiences and gifts that it yielded for that moment. And then embrace the new, embrace what's to come. And so if we can take on that process, then this whole thing unfolds naturally, beautifully, every step of the way. We don't have to force anything. We don't have to be in pain or misery at any stage or any step. It truly is just a flow. It is that fluid, flowing movement. So I thought that was just an amazing link between our prior discussion and examining this process as well, and just going deeper into it. So I've loved everything that you've shared thus far. And yeah, thanks for bringing up this topic again.
I am greatly appreciative of how you weave that just now, and you articulated it so beautifully, so beautifully, and that pretty much sums up so much of the journey that I've experienced, especially in the last few years, as I described. And that is the true medicine. And that's why I'm now such a advocate of love being the way to all of this. And there's no timeline. There's no, again, that's a very egoic, I need to achieve something a particular time frame. It's like, where is that coming from? So yeah, it's bringing the feminine principles back to the forefront of our consciousness, because like you said, Justin, so beautifully, she will lead us to our true nature. This is our true nature, actually. And it's in a sense like this false idea of control, or the need to control the process, is the very thing that is sabotaging the actual process. It's that egoic urge to accomplish something in a particular period of time that is actually, in a sense, kind of like keeping it away. But it's that immense trust, ultimately. It's that immense trust and immense listening, just constantly just being in listening mode. And if anything, that's that's where we can channel our attention or focus our attention, is on being observant, without judging, with nothing, with no narrative whatsoever, just to observe all the choices that we make. And the choices that we make with food, because I believe that the way we do anything is the way we do everything. So we can change an aspect of our lives in one area, that is going to change all the other areas as well, because it's all connected. So if we stick to food for a moment, is to be an observation of the choices that I make and what's behind them. Again, just as an observer, keep making whatever choice you want to make, and just stay in that observer seat. And then with love, that's the love comes in, the mother comes in and holds that little child and asks the little child, well, how do you feel about this? We gotta lead with our heart. The bottom line. It's not this whole food trip. It's not about the freaking food. It's about love. It's about leading with our heart, and then the rest will follow. The rest will follow. And of course, this discussion is to have the door open, to have the awareness of what we are speaking about here today, those deeply seated, rooted beliefs about food and nutrition. The whole idea of nutrition is bogus. And that is a big one to really let go of, because especially for somebody like me, I came from that background. I was like steeped in that nutrition and micronutrients and macronutrients, blah, blah. I was steeped in that. So, and our entire society, like it's a huge structure, talking about Saturn and Pisces and dissolving structures. It's like structures that are based on falsehood. And let me rephrase that. Perhaps it's not full falsehood, because it serves a purpose at a particular time for a particular person. However, so it's not, but there is a validity to that. Half truth is still a lie. And so I like to just put everything on the table. And nothing is classified as good, bad, right, wrong. It's just like, let's put everything on the table. And ultimately, it's what we believe in. And if somebody really believes in nutrition and all that, then obviously that's the reality they're going to create. And that's part of the like dancing in between worlds, that is a mind trip. That there's a full knowing that this is not true, yet there's still something is still holding on to that belief. And so that's, again, agreeing with what Justin said, that, oh, right, there's still something holding on to that belief. Okay, then I'm going to look at it and love it. And it's just going to fade away with the wind when it's time. And that creates just so much more ease and openness. Taking away that contraction or constriction in the body, that things should be a certain way and should go at a certain timeline. And yeah, just to have everything on the table and enjoy the ride, I guess.
Yeah, it's not about a destination. We're not getting anywhere. We truly chose to experience this for the experience, for the journey. So every step of it and every one of us, which are all just aspects of the one. So we're all just aspects of the one, splitting ourselves in perceivedly infinite variations to be able to examine this journey and this process from infinite perspectives. So each perspective is incredibly valuable. It's so valuable to the experience of us all. So to cherish your journey, your experience, where you are within it, not comparing yourself to another as if I have to have an experience that way, or if I'm not meeting this threshold or this idea that I'm not doing enough, but truly just embracing that for what it is, moving away from this timeline-based reality, but into what is true, which is cause and effect. So if I'm in that state of true observation, if I'm seeing things clearly, then I notice the effects clearly, and I can consciously examine what were the causes of how I got here. If I enjoy the effects, then there's no real need to change the cause. But if I start to see effects that I'm no longer resonating with, then that's where the conscious will moves in to change the cause, to say, I'm looking for something different. That divine movement, that feeling, that intuition within me is saying, I'm tired of these effects. I don't want to feel sluggish or slow. I don't want to have bad digestion. I don't want to feel these feelings any longer. So what are the causes and how can I move there? And this is just the way that we can consciously decouple from all of these layers that have gotten us into this. I don't even really like using the term lower form, but it's a more dense form way of being. And we chose to experience that for a time. So there's value in everything that we have experienced. But eventually I naturally find myself inclined to move away from that lower density experience. So then that's the unwinding, finding all those causes of how I got here. Oh, it's been because I've been conditioned to believing that I need to eat these things and do this and that. And then that just let them go when I'm ready to let them go. And that process comes through. When it is freedom to truly just embrace the journey, embrace that whole process. Not saying that it has to be a certain way or on this timeline or in this way, but just embracing every step, cherishing what it yields and my part in it. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to add that regarding the effects that we may experience, if it's from foods or whatever other things in life, if we just stick to the topic of food and consumption, and this is the slippery slope that one may experience the effects, and I'm even speaking from experience of feeling the effects, yet not making the choice that would be more supportive, right? And so that's where the inner transformative work begins, is to ask that question, how come? And again, to not judge, to not criticize oneself. It's just coming from a loving place and asking, well, how come if I'm seeing certain effects that I am not interested in, potentially even painful or harmful, then why do I keep choosing that? And it's no different than like a drug addict that shoots up every night. And they may even know, like, I'm killing myself, but they continue to do it. Right? So if we go back to us being addicted when it comes to food, and Justin, I'm certain that you've encountered many people that no matter what is the information that you share, and they might even see it as true. They're like, I totally get it. I hear you. Totally hear you. I know the cigarettes are killing me. I know the alcohol is making me sick. I know the meat is like making me heavy, and I'm like farting all day long, whatever, you know, it's like, but they still do it, right? So this is what I've been observing after so many years with this, my own life and working with people. And it's like, what is the driving force behind us making choices that are not supportive to life, to our best expression? And it leads back to what I was talking about earlier. There's a collective agreement, a deep programming of death. Like, this is something very, very deep to realize, that we've been programmed to die. And so we make choices that it might not be a bullet in the head, but it's a slow suicide to whatever extent. And so it's really diving into that cellular bank of the collective, so to speak, but within ourselves, that am I going to choose life? And it's ultimately that journey of love. It's loving oneself when I know who I truly am. And if I am choosing life, am I going to choose life? Do I want to choose life? Do I love myself enough to choose that? And that's what the unraveling brings us to, or the unraveling begins from that place. Because as I said, it's one thing to see the trajectory or having a realization, and then the process of integrating that and actually going through the experience of that truth becoming, or just being infused, merging with our being. It's no longer a concept. It's no longer, oh, I've just seen a vision. It's infused. It has merged in one's own psyche. And that's what I've been experiencing in the last few years. Like, I've had many different experiences that I can't share them all here. But it's been that merging, that infusing all these truths, or that truth, allowing it to be infused, allowing it to merge on a deeper level. And it's basically bringing more and more light, right, to usher out that which is false. That's what it's all about. It's bringing that light, which to me, light equals love equals truth. And the more we bring that in, it's not about forcing out the falseness. It's not pushing out the dark and the dense. It's infusing and bringing in more light, and continue with more light and more love and more light and more love. And it flushes out that which is false. I practice many different yoga traditions and whatnot, and Kundalini Yoga is one of them. In Kundalini Yoga, there's a simple mantra, a seed mantra, that is Sat Nam. And I remember when I heard it, when I was introduced to Kundalini Yoga and Sat Nam, and the teacher explained what it meant. And again, that something spoke to my heart, and it's been unraveling itself for all these years, just keep showing it's what it means. Truth is my identity. That's what Sat Nam means. And in Kundalini Yoga, that chant is used very frequently. And even in traditional practice, you'll close the practice with that mantra, Sat Nam. Truth is my identity. And it means that when we affirm that, Sat Nam, Sat Nam, truth, I'm not identified with anything. I am the truth of light. I am the light of truth. And everything else falls away then. Whatever is not truth will have no room to exist in this field. And so that's, the whole journey even of purification and all the cleansing that we do in the fruits. And it's like we bring more light, we bring more light, we bring more light. And then there's no room for anything else to exist. And then making choices, it's not about like, oh, I'm going to make good choices for myself. No, it's our natural state to make the best choices, to make choices that support our happiness, our joy, our vibrancy, our radiance, our vitality and health. It's our natural state. It's not something of the mind. Like I need to think about what to choose that is a better choice. It's just love is love. And so in a sense, like there won't be choices anymore to make. It's just obvious what is the course of love in this now moment. And we can apply that to the food, to the consumption, to whatnot. It becomes just a natural, it becomes a way of living. It becomes a way of living. It's not something we need to do. Again, going back to that, right? It just becomes a way of living.
Beautifully said. Yeah, there's a huge difference between the intellectual conceptualization of an idea versus the true Gnostic gnosis knowing of something, that full integrative way of being. And one thing that I love to remember is that everyone, including myself, is always doing their best with what they know. And always in all moments, we can even take the most extreme examples of someone who causes harm to another, a rapist, for example. They're still doing the best with what they know. They have fallen to a state where they believe that the other being is somehow separate from them. And this is what can justify, based on their own experience, this inducing of harm to that other version of self, that other aspect. So there's a lack of knowing to truly allow that action to even occur. So coming back to the food realm, when somebody says, oh, I know this is harmful, or I know this is bad for me, but I still do it, I like to challenge that and say, well, you don't know. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm still choosing to entertain these things that are less than optimal, then I don't fully know. I don't have that full integrated knowing that would still lead me to choose this kind of behavior. And when we are open to that, when we allow that sort of, that is in a state of surrender to say, okay, I don't have it all put together here. I don't know completely. That's what allows that divine guidance to continue to flow through. But as soon as I step into that prideful idea that I know this, yet I'm still choosing otherwise, then that creates a dichotomy that's difficult to surpass, difficult to get through, because I'm still fighting to hold on to this idea that I know something and choosing otherwise, instead of being open to the fact that I don't know. I don't know in this moment, and I'm still choosing this, and that's okay. And allowing that to move through, then I'm going to be led to those opportunities where I can know. I can truly integrate that when I'm ready. Again, coming back to this allowance of that feminine to guide us. Because if I'm not ready to have that, then I won't. But this is what can just apply some more ease to this process of unlearning and relearning by being truly humble and honest with ourselves, not allowing the intellect or the mind to declare I know something before I truly do, before I'm ready. And that's what allows the concepts to fall away, and that deep introspective knowing to come through. And the physical health journey is one of the clearest examples, but it really applies to everything, where it doesn't matter what somebody tells me about the fact that going on juice for an extended period of time is going to bring a sense of lightness and levity and vibration to my being. Somebody could tell me that all day long. But until I actually experience that and feel what it's like to let go of the physical food for a time, and to let go of these ways of being, and I have that deep feeling from what comes from that, then I don't know. I don't know what that's like. So the physical health journey is a great avenue to explore that experimentation of, I can't take anyone else's experience for a knowing. I have to go through it myself, which just makes it more exciting, because we're our own, experiments, or we're our own scientists kind of figuring this thing out. And then we can share and compare notes and share strategies, and that's all fine and good. However, at the end of the day, we have to take that on ourselves. I can't have somebody else do that for me. That goes into this sort of savior victim mentality. No one else is going to save me. No one else is going to do it for me. We all get to do this together, and we're all going to do it at our own rates and our own ways. And that's what allows this dynamic, beautiful expression to the tapestry gets to weave in and of itself. And we're all different color threads, creating just an amazing, vibrant, colorful masterpiece. And it wouldn't be as exciting any other way. So it's perfect.
I love that you use that, because I say it all the time. I say it that it's an art. This whole thing, it's an art, and that you are the most exquisite masterpiece that you'll ever get to create. When I say you, not just Justin, but for each and every one of us, I am the most exquisite masterpiece that I'm ever going to work on. Like, the only one, actually, because everything else is an extension. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised that you use that term masterpiece, and it really is an art. There's no doubt. And yeah, I loved everything you shared. And when it comes to the health journey and the whole food journey, is that it's a double-edged sword in this day and age, because we are so blessed, obviously, to have all this information. There are many, many pioneers that, even Dr. Morris himself, when he started all of this, there were no like fruitarian groups on Facebook. He went by himself in the woods in his early 20s and just lived on oranges for 6 months because he was guided to do so. So the age that we are in right now is a double-edged sword, because on one hand, we are exposed to so much information, and man, I found so much of what I experienced on the internet, when I was like, fruitarianism, yeah, sign me up, tell me more, and it was through YouTube, so there's obviously a lot of benefit. And at the same time, it disconnects us and majority of humans from their own intuitive knowing. And then there's a lot of comparison as well in the field. Like, oh, wow, look, Justin did this and that, then I'll try it out. But that was for Justin, and this is the phase that Justin is in. And it may or may not apply to Noah at any particular moment in time. So there's a lot of that happens in those arenas, in those communities, when we are exposed. So there's, again, it's not either or. It's like having the blend of, yeah, okay, be aware, be exposed to the information, listen to what some guides, because hey, like I've walked the mountain to a particular spot, right? So I can guide from a particular vantage point. But that doesn't mean that you're going to walk it exactly as I have. So it's listening, and then tuning in, because the truth will always spark something inside. There won't be this logical, analytical process to it. There's going to be this knowing inside. It might not make sense. It might threaten a lot of beliefs, just like if I tell, like, you don't need food, you might sit there and like, what did you just say? But there might be something deeper inside, is like, there might be something in that, right? So just to tune in, like there's something inside that is resonating with that. And then listening to one's own intuition. When it comes to all these things, the fasting, the juices, the this, the that, duration of time, that's when when I was sharing earlier, when I just dropped all of it in terms of the fasting too. I'm like, I'm stopping the whole, like, I'm going to do 3 days. I'm going to do this, that. Like, I dropped all of that. And I just said, just guide me. Just guide me, because free me from the patterns that keep me in prison. That was my prayer. And that is more important than how many days I've fasted or how many days you are on juice or on this or on that. And it's, again, going back to that feminine way of leading, and it's love. It's just love that is showing us the way. So yeah, just remembering that although we are so exposed to so much information and there's benefit to it, the most advanced technology there is you. And the individual intuition will remain the number one GPS for each individual.
Amazing. I really love this so much. Yeah, I'm wondering, do you want to maybe throw it open and see if anyone else wants to jump in the conversation? Yeah.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, so if anybody else feels inspired to share an experience or ask a question or just discuss this topic any which way, and it's really a quite all-encompassing topic, because while we are sort of examining the physical food part of it, this is holistic. It's all connected in how this applies to every way of being, that we don't need anything in the external to live or to be. We truly are whole. We are complete. So yeah, I'll just throw it open and see if anybody else wants to jump in. Hey, Aline, welcome. Did you want to share something? Yeah, you just have to hit that same button again that you used to raise your hand. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, well,
Hi, Noah. Hi, Justin.
Hi.
I could tell she wasn't smiling yet. I'm like, can she hear me? I knew she would start smiling. This has been such an amazing talk. I was holding on to every single one of your words. Thank you for doing this. I am learning so much. Noah's a great teacher to me, and each time I hear you speak, I just go deeper and deeper into my own truth and realization. And Justin, too, thank you for hosting this beautiful conversation and for your input as well. I am like, whew, my mind is blown in the greatest way possible. Just wanted to thank you both so much for doing this.
Oh, thanks, sister. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. And if you guys don't know Aline and her work, she's a powerful pioneer in the healing space as well. So I just want to thank you for all that you're doing and for showing up here in this space. It is a wonderful conversation as we peel back
Thank
these
you.
layers. So yeah, of
I do a
course.
lot of food porn.
Aline is an incredible soul for sure, and I'm so grateful for you, honey, and you're such a hero for sure. I know that so much of what I shared here also resonates with you, and I admire you for the journey that you have walked and everything that you are.
Thank you. I especially appreciate the gentleness and the compassion that you both bring, and I love how you allow us the space to come to these realizations. Even Justin said, like, I won't tell anybody what to do or where they're at in their life. We're all in different places and we could ebb and flow. I've like juiced a lot, I've water fasted a lot, and now I'm in this more like eating space, and just like navigating these different areas and always like having a lot of compassion for ourselves is really the key, and not comparing ourselves to anybody else And just like that element, that element of like that feminine, just being ready to let go, right? It is, I could feel it in your voice too, Noah, when you said like the letting go aspect and having a funeral. It's like we're literally mourning all these things. And it's like, how ready are we to step into that next space? So yeah, no, this is really deep and profound. I'm so grateful to be in this space with you both. Very lucky, feel so lucky and, chosen for this path. It's really a calling. It's a choosing, and saying yes to it is a whole other layer to it. But, thank you.
Yeah, I so resonate with that, what you said at the end there. It's a calling, and it's not everyone's calling. Yeah, and the courage to say yes to it, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's what creates such an exciting story. I mean, when we really examine this experience from the broadest scale, we're enacting in God's beautiful story. And just like any story, there's going to be challenges to overcome. There's going to be parts of the story that are intense and difficult, and that's what creates the full crescendo and allowance of that expression to unfold in the ways that it does. So we celebrate all the challenges. We celebrate everything that comes along our way. Sometimes it might not feel good in a particular moment, but even in those moments, to cherish, okay, this I feel really sad right now. I want to feel into this deep state of mourning as I'm overcoming this particular challenge or this particular aspect of myself, and letting go of that layer, that relationship, that part of me that I cherished for so long, and celebrate what it's bringing me into now. So yeah, it's a love story. It's a comedy. It's an epic tale. It's all of these things folded into one. Sometimes it's a horror movie, it changes, but that's what allows this dynamic expression to be as it is. And I wouldn't have it any other way. We wouldn't have it any other way. If we did, then we wouldn't be here. Simple as that. We chose to create this and to inhabit this for that specific purpose.
It's quite the thriller.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Aline. Was there anyone else who wanted to jump in today and share anything, ask any questions? Noa is a tremendous resource for stepping into this process. Not that we're relying on someone else to do it for us, but just to ask questions of maybe how to approach this process or step more deeply into it. If you have some specific questions from your life and your journey, this would be an amazing time to go through it. So yeah, I'll just pass it off again and see if anyone else wants to jump in.
Hey everyone. Thank you for this great show. A lot of good information. I love it. I love the frequency. You just add, just some things that I've learned along the way that are helpful to me, or have been helpful to me. When we really step into this path and we start to see people that are so far ahead of us in our awakening, and that they're able to carry this higher frequency. It's something that I watched Justin for a while, and was able to reflect that energy. So there's a lot of mental game when it comes into seeing all these people so far ahead, and we do kind of compare and contrast ourselves with others, and it can be damaging to us. When I seen how far ahead other people were, I thought I could just sprint and keep sprinting, and I burnt myself out and was hurting myself trying to catch up to others. So I realized that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And when I really started to embody that and let go of expectations of where I should be, and just started to respect the journey as a whole, and really embodied the whole. It's none of it's happening to us; it's happening for us. Everything just kind of started to fit into place more, and the journey started to become more enjoyable instead of constantly trying to hold myself to a standard of where other people are in their journey. I was beating myself up quite a bit for being behind, kind of cracking a whip on myself, if you will. And it wasn't working out too well for me doing that. So, I just want to share that with everybody, that remember that it is a marathon and not a sprint, and we're not really, competing with each other. And that we're all there in this marathon, and we should just help those that we're passing, and those that are passing us in any way we can. And that's really what I'm doing now, is just I take note of where I'm at and see if I can offer any help to both the people in front or behind me in this marathon. And again, it's not a competition. It's but this journey is a long one, and it does feel like a marathon. And if we don't pace ourselves and handle the mental game involved in such a long marathon, we won't complete the marathon. We won't complete the journey. So yeah, I do believe in kind of letting up off ourselves a little bit, and allowing ourselves to be a messy human for a little bit of time, and kind of go up and down, and really feel that roller coaster. That's what makes a roller coaster so fun, right? Is the ups and downs. The bigger the ups and downs, the more exciting it is. Yeah, just enjoy the roller coaster ride, everyone. And I guess I'll just I guess the last thing I'll say is, your intuition really is your best friend. When everything that we're doing, and we're navigating so many lies and deception in an inverted world, and so many psychological operations taking place, and your intuition really is the that golden compass that is going to lead you in the right path. So any way that you can sharpen and hone your intuition and grow your intuition, it's really, really going to serve you well. And I don't know what everyone else's intuition feels like. I only can go based upon mine. So just learn those feelings. Learn what these little subtle energies and shifts in your energy mean, and recognize the divinity in yourself, and that you are a vessel for the Creator, and you have to look for Him showing up in your life through you. Is what I've learned, is the more intuition you lean on, and the more you grow it, I think it goes hand in hand with being that vessel for the Creator, and to help us walk that straight and narrow path, and navigate this journey the best we can. I hope I wasn't too all over the place. I'll just leave it there. Thank you both for an amazing show.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Always a love hearing from you. And it's yeah, I mean, what you said about just enjoying the ride, the ups and the downs. So when we're looking at the food journey and our relationship and moving towards lighter ways of being, when we have those moments where it's like, okay, I'm drawn to a particular experience where I might on some intellectual level conceptualize that this is not going to lead me to a space of higher vibration. Say, for example, I choose to eat some potatoes. You know, I know that those potatoes are not going to bring me to a state of fluidity. They're not going to bring me into a state of movement. But if I'm drawn to in that particular moment to have that experience with the potatoes, then go into that fully, truly experience every bit of that, from the joy and presence of the flavors and taste and sensations in my mouth, but also the full digestive experience of the time it takes for that substance to move through my body. And when I can really examine every decision in that way, I'm not beating myself up for having that decision. I'm not going to punish myself for making that choice. But having that experience and truly noting every bit of what that felt like, I am now one step closer to the point where I'm like, it's not really worth it. It's not really worth it to go through that full experience. But if I try and skip that step, if I try and beat myself up or fight against that urge, then I don't have that fully integrated knowing, and it's still just an intellectual conceptualization. It's not holistic. And so it's going to lead further down the road to where I'll have that swing back into binging of some sorts, that boomerang effect. So conscious awareness of every step, including the perceived falls and the rises, everything in between, how that feels, what I get from that. And eventually, if I'm truly open to allowing that movement to flow, I'll be led to that space to where that choice of eating the potatoes, as an example, isn't within my range of choices. It's not in my experience any longer. But that only comes when I'm truly allowing that flow to move freely every step of the way. So great point there, Mike. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. And I saw Nancy J, you had your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Justin. I just want to say a little bit. I got on the call late, but I totally agree with everything that Noah was talking about in you. And just as an example, a little over a year ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer that had spread all over. And we can all envision and imagine how I got to that space using substances and foods, for many, many decades to get there. And I spent this last year healing from that. And because of you, Justin, and others like you, I knew what the cure could be. But I had to do it at my own pace, as was stated here. And I could not beat myself up because that diagnosis is a head trip. I used some mild mainstream medicines at my family's request. I also was fortunate to find some other physical, maybe some Tesla technologies along the way. And that helped subliminal messages to get my unconscious, deprogrammed from cancer being, oh my gosh, this is what happens to you, and get out of that fear. And as I walked this road, I noticed the synchronicity as one. I use supplements too, but each and every time I started realizing, I'm depending on something physical outside of me. And I knew that we had more power because I've been around this community for some years now and totally know that, not just believe it, but know that. And that, like I said, when one treatment opportunity phased out, a new one would come back in. And now, as of March, there was no cancer present. And so what was it? I have to say it was my consciousness, because it was my consciousness that led me to these other things, to make these decisions on what resonated with me and what I could do. And so I just wanted to share very briefly, this isn't supposed to be about me. That's not what I'm sharing. It is to show that we are who you all are telling us that we are, and we have this ability. And it's not always easy. And it did take the entire community of everyone that I listened to in these groups. And so, you know, what comes out of that, maybe just for someone who, you know, was where I was, you know, eating really poorly, just to say, you know, it's okay. And I can, when it's time, I can, and believe that. And more, there's more people than me doing this. And I was fortunate to run into a couple of them that I could talk with face to face. And so that helps. So yeah, we're never alone. And we need each other in this. And I'm just happy to share this a little bit. And so maybe somebody else, you know, might, I hope no one else is in that situation I found myself in, but it's doable and you can recover. So thank you so much for all you do, Justin and Noah and everyone else that has something going on, that are reaching out to the masses and people like me, telling us there's another way. And then one last thing, just to echo that, yes, you know, what you're saying, I do believe is total truth. I took an integrative nutrition class, and the motto was, one man's food is another man's poison. So definitely we have to work within our own bodies, our own self. And so that phrase, know thyself, is, you know, cannot be understated. So thank you all for listening. I'm very grateful to have this community and to be able to share this today.
Thank you, Nancy. I love hearing from you, and your story inspires me, and thank you. Thank you for the gift that you are to step up and do this and to take on that challenge and to walk through it with that faith and truly find your way through it. But I have no doubt that God led you through this experience so that you could be a powerful voice to others who are going through something similar, to really have gone through the gauntlet. And of course, we're all still going through the gauntlet in various ways at different times. But you've really taken on that task with such courage, and I just really cherish and appreciate you for that. So thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
It means a lot. Oh.
No, I just thank you for this beautiful share, and it's so true what you said, that ultimately it's all consciousness, and when we tap into that, then healing can be instantaneous, and that's what we call a miracle. It really bypasses all these, and again, not to devalue like all the supplements, the herbs, the treatments, whatever it is that a person does, but ultimately it's just, and it's your soul's journey. It was your soul's journey to heal, and that's also something individual. So you reached a place deep within you that you chose life, and your consciousness shifted as a result, and you healed. You because you were never sick to begin with. Like you merged with the truth of who you are, and that's what healing is all about, and that's why it can be instantaneous in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So thank you for that. That's super inspiring. And I also want to say that Nancy said there at the end that one person's medicine can be another person's poison. And I would say that you can apply it to one own self, that my own medicine in a few weeks from now, months or years, might be my poison. And you know, so much of what I described about my own journey is what I'm finding myself at that exact place of, like, things that used to be my medicine and things that I enjoyed consuming are just no longer part of the equation. You know, so that's the whole, like, again, tuning in to what is present, not what was.
Yeah, beautifully said. There is this, you mentioned about know thyself, and that's why these modalities like astrology and human design are very effective at going deeper into this formula that is me. You know, I am not this formula, but this formula is what I'm working with in this particular incarnation at this particular time. So knowing it is very helpful to find out, okay, what are my inclinations? And we can look at this from, you know, even the foods that we're inclined to at particular times in our life, but even the patterns, the ways that we can move through it. Some people are much more wired towards the structure and having a schedule and a way of doing things, you know, get up and meditate for this time, and I fast at this point every week or this point every month, or however. Some people are wired that way, and some people that does great benefit. Some people are not. Some people are much more dynamic and flowing and spontaneous with how that approaches. And sometimes those aspects change within our lifetimes too. You know, sometimes there's a period of my life where I might need that structure and that schedule. And then there are others where I'm completely open in that flow. So knowing thyself is essential to truly get this to a state of not that we're ever mastering it completely, but to really master the process of allowing it to unfold from that feeling-led, feminine-led space of being, and trusting that where I'm led is exactly perfect for where I need to be, and where somebody else might need to be in that particular moment is perfect for them in that space. And this is what also allows us to let go of that judgment of how somebody else is doing something or how I'm not doing something in a way that I think I should be doing, but truly just allowing that to flow freely. And I often say to people when they ask like for guidance in the health space or suggestions in what to do, the best thing to do is to really be honest with yourself. Be completely honest with yourself about where you are, you know, and what's happening and what got you to this space. And that's a deep introspection. It requires much work to really uncover all those layers, to know thyself, to learn the mechanisms of how I function, but also where I am in the journey, because that's really going to give you the idea of like, okay, where would I like to go next? And where am I being led to and drawn to next? So being completely honest with oneself is essential to truly know that. Otherwise, I'm just loosing my ideas based on somebody else's information or somebody else's ideas. And that's basing my reality off the external, which is always going to be an inverted way of being. We've got to bring it back to the internal, knowing that I am the projector of my reality. So whatever is happening within me is projecting outward and I'm experiencing it, not the other way around. I'm not the result of the external influences. So those are just some things that came up from Nancy's share again. And thanks again, Nancy, for coming on and sharing all that.
Thank you. I love you guys. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. It's saving lives.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. Yeah, well, cool. Well, was there anybody else that would like to jump in today to share anything, ask any questions? We can certainly start wrapping up too, but just wanted to make sure we covered anyone that felt inspired to speak today. Hey, Sharon, welcome to the show. What do you have to share with us today? Oh, let me get your mic open. There you go.
Hi, beautiful souls. Hi. It's really, oh my goodness. My heart is just, it is bursting with love and peace from listening to the two of you and the combination of your beautiful spirits. And it's, I just wanted to say that I so love you for having this platform, Justin, and for hearing the shares like Nancy and Mike and these individuals that, you know, it really is about being a guiding light, and the light is beaming around the two of you. And, you know, we wake up in the morning, and I love what you said, Noah, in regards to that we're running a life of death. And we even get up in the morning and we say good morning to everybody, you know, like we're mourning ourselves. I mean, rise and shine. Whatever happened to rise and shine? The words and the path that we take is really, and Nancy, you're beautiful. You connected to the beautiful light of your soul and the light that you connected with to navigate this this journey, and it's so inspiring. And I mean, there's so many aspects to this, but really it comes down to love thyself, and it really is. We can make it really complicated, or we can be patient with ourselves and loving with ourselves, and all of these wonderful things that is more of a life of positivity rather than a life of mourning, our next step towards that death trap. And what you also said, Noah, and Justin spoke of it too, is in regards to the destination, that we had this, okay, I need to do a 3-day fast. Oh, now next time I'm going to do a 6-day fast. Next time, instead of really just guiding yourself within those beautiful virtues of the feminine spirit, the one of nurturing. I mean, nurture, and yeah, I just really love you, and I just wanted to express that. You inspire me, and it keeps me. And every time I hear you speak, I go, super cool. Like that's, yes, okay, I never thought about it that way, and it's really, it's just, I just cannot thank you enough, and share my appreciation for what it is that you bring to the table, so we can all be part of this beautiful project of iridescence canvas, that we can spread our sparkly rainbows throughout the atmosphere of this cosmic journey. It's really wonderful.
Thank you, Sharon. It's such a gift. It's always such a gift to hear you and to feel that resonance come through. So thank you. Thank you for adding to this. Beautiful, beautiful share. And yeah, I agree completely.
And have an amazing day. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, is there anybody else who would like to jump in today, ask anything, share anything before we wrap up? All right. Well, I'll take that as a wonderful sign that we covered all that we needed to today. But just in case there's something else, I'll pass it back to you, Noah. Was there anything else you wanted to share to leave everybody with before we close out today?
No, me, Justin. I can keep going for hours on these topics. But well, first, just thank you for everybody that joined here today, just creating this space and receiving whatever it is that was meant for you to receive. And for those that are watching the replay, this is, in my humble perspective and everything that I have seen and heard, it is a very crucial even step in our evolution as a species. And so yeah, walking together on this path with love and compassion and understanding and encouragement to know that there are higher places for us to reach, and a more vibrant world for us to experience and give birth to. That's what I've been seeing. It's us as a collective giving birth to a new world, so to speak, and a new society. And it really starts with us giving birth to ourselves, which, yes, occurs quite often. It's not just one time. There's many versions of ourselves that we keep on birthing. And this is one heck of a birth, let's just say that, to find freedom from so many of these deep social and collective agreements, and claiming our sovereignty, which has massive ripple effects beyond our comprehension.
Beautifully said. Thank you for that. And thank you for this. This was a wonderful discussion, just as they all have been. And I'm just so grateful to have you in this space, Noah. So thank you for all that you do and all that you share. And yeah, let's take this and, as she said, to let what resonates with you to sink in further, and what doesn't, it's no worries. It's no worries. We're not rushing anything or anyone. We're exactly where we need to be at all moments. This is just an allowance to examine the possibility, examine the magic and wonder of our higher forms of expression. And this was, I just shared on the main channel. I posted this from a side channel that I started up not too long ago through the Eye of JC, which is where I'm just sharing a lot of interesting things that I'm watching or pouring through, just so I don't flood the main channel too much. But I did share this movie that Noah shared with me called Club Zero. And I was able to watch it the other day, and it really does a great job at examining this process of letting go of the physical food as a need, letting go of that belief, and dealing with the ramifications of how that looks, dealing with everyday society, this collective consciousness that we're operating with. So it's a great encapsulation of that. I'd highly recommend checking it out. And yeah, just want to, again, thank everybody for stepping in today and sharing as you have. And I guess we didn't really get to talk about the movie. Noah, did you want to share anything else on the movie before? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that I didn't know if you had watched it or not, and I'm so happy you posted it. It's a testament also that this movie was presented last year, 2023, in some European movie festival. So it's a testament of where human consciousness is at. Like, if there are movies now being made and presented on these topics, and if you watch it, you'll see what it is all about. It does really just convey the reality of living without food, that it's now more in the mainstream, you can say. Maybe it's not a Hollywood movie, but nevertheless, it's a movie that has been made in 2023. So again, it's just a testament of where we are at, and everything that every single one of you have been doing, no matter how little it may seem, but we've all been contributing to the evolution of the collective consciousness. And that the fact that we have movies like this right now is also an invitation for us, like wherever you are finding yourself on this food trip journey and addictions and habits, wherever you're finding yourself, it's an invitation to expand, to grow. This is just the nature of our times. And to remember, though, that growing, or the best kind of growing, happens in a space of allowance and openness. So to just remain open, to remain spacious within oneself, and then the growth happens very naturally and very organically. Yeah, wow, thank you for sharing that movie, Justin. I just wasn't sure if it's something you wanted to. I just shared it with you, but I'm really happy that you put it out there.
Yeah. Well, forgive me for not sharing more about it. I actually had forgotten to mention it until just now, but I'm glad I remembered, because it is a great encapsulation, and it shows the sort of yeah, just the considerations that we need to have with what we share about our journey, to whom we're sharing with, because embarking on this does come anytime we're stepping away from the collective norms. We are going to isolate ourselves in a way, and this, yeah, I thought I did a great job of just examining that process and what it looks like to kind of deal with the repercussions of people who might not know or don't know what we're going through and still are holding on to those old beliefs. So how to kind of operate in that space strategically, but also, yeah, just kind of, yeah, recognize all that comes within it. So yeah, it's a great film. It really is wonderful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Justin, now that you're saying that, one of the things that I loved about how they conveyed the message in the movie about the importance of having, like you saw how the kids, they had a group that, like, in order for us to rise higher, it's not alone. And it doesn't need to be a lot. Like there were just 5 of them at the end. So, but they had each other. They had that support. They had that pod and the help of a guide to help go to the next level, because we are looking at like big forces at play, right? When it comes to the collective, when it comes to everything that we've talked about, it's not like the easiest path to walk. And so having each other and having the support is absolutely essential. Absolutely essential. And I love that piece in the movie, especially with that, you know, Ben, that one that was a rebel and didn't want to go with everyone, and eventually he did. And when he had that support from everybody else, it made it so much easier for him to just let go of the resistance and do it. So, and let go of all the, like you said, you know, the family and the society and all the attachments to that. So, yeah, maybe we can have like a discussion, or like I know you have those movie nights. Maybe that could be like a movie night if you feel inspired to do so, because it is a very, very deep and profound movie. And I do want to say also, just to add, if anyone would like to discuss this further on just like one-on-one basis, then please just send me a message. Don't hesitate. Would love to assist in any way, shape, or form. Or yeah, because I know it's not necessarily a topic that you can talk to anyone about. So I'm happy to offer that.
Yeah, and just for anyone listening who might not have direct access to message you, what are the best ways to reach out and contact you?
Email, yeah, Noa@noalakshmi.com. And there's no H in the Noa.
Yeah, N-O-A.
No.
Yeah, awesome. Well, cool. Well, again, thanks everybody for hopping on today, and thank you, Noa, for bringing this forward. And yeah, I'd love to continue conversations in this capacity, and I'm sure we will. I was telling Noa the other day, I really enjoy the flow that we share together. She's, from a human design perspective, she's a generator, so she's really good at generating these topics and these ideas to come up, and then I can help to project them out as the projector. So it's a good flow in that sense, and we both have our throat motors defined. And yeah, so there's just a lot in there to help speak on these things. So we're happy to do this together, and appreciate every one of y'all coming along to help out with that as well. And if you ever feel like you have any questions for us to cover, or a topic that you want both of us to present on, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm sure we can weave it in some way or another. But yeah, thanks again, Noa, for all that you're doing. And yeah, sending love to everyone out there. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And we'll take care. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.